we live in the mountains, we're people of the trees here. And the trees are very crucial and important to our way of life, to the culture that we're bringing forward. And what we're doing today is mixing our traditional cultures and that way of honoring what we're doing and working with the earth, with the modern culture, with the community forests, where local people are working here, growing their families as well. So we're showing you how, as a people, as a community, we can work together to bring about a better way of life to pass on to you, because you are, all of you, the next generation that will inherit the earth. And now it is our responsibility to give this message, to give this way of educating you, and it's eventually going to be your responsibility to pass that on to your children. And may you all have a good day and a good life. Limit for all of you. Yeah. Not too bad. Sweetgrass, cedar, very powerful herbs that are used in ceremony and for various reasons. Each one is representative of something different, and all of them are very powerful in terms of Native tradition. And because we're doing a prayer, we're going to honor it. I just want to begin this video with a land acknowledgement and a personal acknowledgement of the Sinaiks people whose territory we live in. And these were people who were dislocated in order to take their resources. And it was during the time of dams and the time of coming in for mining. And there is a great potential here in the mountains. And unfortunately, they declared the Sinaiks extinct, and they're still struggling, going through so many court cases, costing so much money in order to come back from extinction and reclaim the land of their ancestors. So I've been able to come here in time to witness a lot of that and understand that colonialization had a lot to do with taking the resources and taking the children away and holding them ransom for their potential capacity to exploit those resources. And so here we are trying to reverse some of this, and we've come, many of us, from many lands with the same problem and with the same cultural upheaval, whether we had to leave Europe or leave this country or that country as refugees. And as we can see today in the world with wars and all the fighting that is going on, we've become a planet of refugees. It's been an ongoing process, but hopefully we can solve something and learn to live in peace and prosperity with the land, with the earth, and learn something from our ancestors, as the Sinaiks too are trying to teach us. Today, we're offering a prayer of gratitude for this tree that has sacrificed itself for all of us and for what we are going to do today. And so this is the tree that was cut yesterday by Jason, one of our fallers, and he was able to aim it because of his expertise to land between these trees and not affect any of the other taller trees so that they can continue living. During this time of the year, they would be harvesting the skin of the tree, the cedar of the tree, and they would use all parts of it. And so their way of doing it was to culturally modify a tree. And you can pull a strip off, and it's like anything. If you go around the tree, that kind of elevator-like process will be cut off from the bottom to the top, and the tree will die. But if you pull a strip off in a long line, and which we will do today, that tree will continue to survive. And you can pull many strips off a tree. There's even one down in Vancouver Island where there's only a strip about that wide left, but the tree is still alive.
Wow!
There you go. Look at the size of that.
That was a long one.
Yeah, definitely. I know. Or no, why don't you all just carry it to the next tree?
Everybody want to grab
And we'll
a piece
see
of the
how
bark?
long it is.
Because if I don't, I'll just live through it probably. So.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, grab on.
I got it. What is that? Maybe. I have granola bars and stuff.
And when you get to the top, when you're still pulling. These trees that have grown here for a very long time know one another. Many of these trees are the babies of older old-growth trees. When we look into nature in terms of, again, our tradition, that we see trees as very comparable to our lives, and we see trees as families, as plants have families of their children, their grandchildren that surround them. They're considered, the elder ones are considered mother, grandmother trees. Like anything in life, we have at least 4 generations, sometimes even more, and they are all surrounding one another and present. And it's the same with animals, and it's the same with us in our life, that parallel between generations. And as I am sitting here today as an elder, we look to the elder trees And some of the oldest trees we have are the cedar trees, and they're very special. And when you go into an old growth forest, as you can see here, the greenery that is growing here covers the land, the moss, it's growing in the shade. It's very damp condition, and we have the privilege to be living in one of the rare inland temperate rainforests on Earth. The cedar is called, in many different traditions, including European tradition, the tree of life. You can see how many things are made from the cedar, from canoes, from homes, structures, that different buildings, how the cedar floats, and also one of the most valuable and important things that we have is the skin of the cedar tree. Lucky thing about cedar is that if you look here, you'll see how the tree grows its fiber in long, long strands. And that's what makes it so easy and so good to harvest. We can then harvest and pull very long strand. If we clear it completely today, we can pull a strand all the way to the top of the tree. Now, if we can pull it off, we'll see. But you have these long, long strands that you can afterwards separate. The older the tree, the thicker the cedar fiber will be. And if you look closely, you'll look here underneath. You see the outer bark. Right in here is that inner cambium, and it's light-skinned, and it's never seen the daylight, and that's the part that is taking the nutrition from the roots at this time of the year and bringing it up like an elevator all the way to the top to feed the leaves. And so twice a year, that sort of sweet juice, in a way, that's inside the sap that's in between the tree and the skin of the tree is moving, going up during the spring, and that's the time that you can harvest the cedar. And in the fall, there's another period of time where the sap will be going down and going back into the roots to help preserve the sugars for the winter time as it goes dormant during the winter. So these are two very important times of the year. And when a tree is cut down, we think that's it, it's over with, but the whole forest reflects and knows when a tree's been cut down. And what this whole underground mycelium that's with the fungus and with all the roots of things that grow will try to bring nutrition to this tree, and will help feed it through its roots, so that it, today we're harvesting, but this will eventually be a mother tree. And a mother tree is what feeds other trees to grow. And as an elder, they lay down their life for the next seed to grow. And that's why sometimes when you go into the forest, it's kind of bumpy. But if you look closely, you'll see where trees have fallen and where the earth has covered it, and other trees have started to grow. And where there are what you call a nurse tree in that. And so we're going to honor this tree, and I'm going to pass this smudge around to all of you. And take a pinch of it, and we're going to place it around the roots of the tree and on the stump to honor this tree, because it has given its life force to us. And when you go out in nature and you're harvesting, whether it's plants, medicine, food, what you're harvesting is the life force in nature, and feeding yourself with that life force. And we grow families and everything because we cooperate and we work together And it's again like saying, this is the web of life, that it isn't just about one person who's dictating how things should be, but it's about all of us learning to respect everything on that web, because everything is conducive to our well-being of our communities and of our families. There are some smaller knives here, more a razor bladey. I'm gonna put it down. I won't take a knife from you. It's just an old testament, because you might have sharp corners.
How did you do on the distance?
Got lots to learn.
I got like, okay. That's not bad. I guess you can get 9. So Eloise,
When my kids were young in New Denver, my daughter was terrible about bringing orphaned or wounded animals. Very confusing house. We had a rut, and all of a sudden this huge...
I found a wolf spider in my room once, and my friend was over. And we were just talking, he'll make his web in the screen.
That's true. That's true.
Or is it Wednesday?
She looks at me and sighs on her last breath and says, well, at least you were entertaining, she said to me. And that's, I guess, what I am. Yeah. So here we go. So our very initial, and if it's really hard and kind of glassy sometimes, we it might be a bit difficult to scrape, but you try to come down hard at the beginning, and you can see all this leftover, and you get up and try to pull it as long as you can. And this kind of punky stuff was also used for stuffing mattresses and different things like that, and it helps keep the bugs away. Perfect. Look at the length of that, you guys.
Like that?
Yeah. All right, coming. I'm coming. Oh. Okay. With your draw knife, just to make sure it's always clean, and if it gets real sappy, I have oil, and if it gets dull, a sharpener. I've got oil and cloths to wipe it, so it just makes it easier. And now when you come down to the skin, you're doing it coming in thicker. How you bend your blade is important, and pull slowly when you get down to the skin. And you got to be careful at this stage. And so you don't want to pull too much of the skin off, because sometimes you can gouge it and it'll make this layer too thin. And so we're going to have thick, thin, thick, thin. But when you get to the skin here, then just glide it. Glide it. Just a few deep. You want to do that instead? Very thick. And there's just to bring all the cloth.
Ron, there's another piece.
Okay. Rubber.
And that's the, well, I mean, it helps bring it all right in there. And like, but I want to go because I think it'd be funny to be able to say I saw. Yeah, maybe he'll wear a cowboy hat. Be like, how are you?
bit more.
Just a little bit more.
Going all the way around.
Yeah.
Just sit. Looking great.
Yeah, I think we'll have to go that way. But you see right here, we've got some kind of broken fiber. But we're going to cut a piece that's going to be coming down like this, and you got to come down really kind of hard that you're cutting into the wood. Can everybody see? Mm-hmm. Now we're going to pull it off the tree. And just to make sure we come down deep enough, it's a bit dry. Bring it all together. Now, someone who has a good eye for being straight is going to go down the tree like this, down the tree, and hold your arm straight and keep coming down. Try not to deviate too much. And always look at the thickness that you're cutting, hard to see the other side. Just for some smaller cuts here. That looks good. Okay. Good.
Keep it going, keep it going.
All of it. More away.
Nice.
You're breathing all by yourself. Sweet
And pull. In and under and pull. And then someone is behind here and rolling so that it doesn't fall in the dirt. This should be so much thicker.
All right,
This is
starting.
when you
Wait, try to get that little piece of knife.
Those ones? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you need to keep your hands, your fingers under, fingers under. And the one thing about learning from our ancestors is learning how to live with the land, how to live with the earth, and find all that you need within a certain area surrounding you. And so basket weaving is just one of the things that you can find. And you can learn a lot from the trees, from foraging for food, from hunting, from the water, fishing, and a bit of mining, a bit of logging, and so many things where you have a lot of diversity and not just a monocultural way of resource extraction and exploitation, that you can do many things like farming, where there's certain times of the year that you're working hard and other times you're doing other things. We become a sort of cult of machinery in a sense, and now we have machines that can do so much in so little time. So many of us now just have jobs running machines, and we're doing so much extraction of nature, just like modern day farming, and most of our profits go to sustain machinery instead of sustaining nature and one another. And we're coming to the finality of that, and we're starting to realize that we have to change in order to learn to sustain ourselves in a good way, in a healthy way that validates our lives, our working ethics, and takes us away from these electronic devices that are, keeping us amused. And the best part is putting the kids in nature, taking the kids out and to weave baskets. And I remember one year, having a class called Eloise's School of Sorcery. And of course, there were certain religious people who were not thrilled with that title. But I said, no, it's to take them to the source. My name is Eloise Charett, and I was born in Quebec. And when I think of who am I, and I'm just a Métis mix in a way of many traditions, from Irish to French to First Nations, and all those traditions influenced me and influenced my childhood and growing up in Quebec, and also the division of language in Quebec, never mind our First Nations language or the Inuit. So all that left its kind of influence on me of the difficulties of colonialism per se. And but the one thing later on, what I became in life was a cashier to a waitress to so many different titles, but nothing ever stuck and nothing stayed for long. And in the end, the greatest thing I've been is a daughter, a sister, and then an aunt and uncle, and then a mother in my own right. I became a mother, a grandmother, and today I'm an elder. This is a cutter, but sometimes we call it the stripper. Everybody loves that word. And this will be to cut our long pieces that we've already kind of taken the bark off the tree. And it's just a handy to have this kind of splitter to process our cedar and make it, these are little cubes we put in to give us the length, the fatness of the strips that we want to weave a basket. So we have different size cubes for different things that we could need. We're going to need like ties. We're going to need fatter pieces sometime, smaller pieces. So you decide what you want to put in, the size of the ones you want to put in. It all actually started when after I got arrested for my watershed, and I told the kids, I have nothing to leave you, but I'll try and leave you pure water. And everybody was screaming about the clear cutting of our forests, and you know, and for me, what worried me was how it was affecting our water, and that water was for everybody. And I told my children, I have nothing to leave you, but I'll try and leave you pure water, and that's for everybody, and the animals, and the trees, and the plants, and so on, because I never saw my legacy as something narrow. I saw it as on a broader spectrum. And so afterwards, during the process, I should say, is that many of the loggers were, screaming that logging feeds their family. And so I thought, well, we are people of the trees here in the mountains, and what can I do to be part of it? And so we brought in someone to show us some about weaving, and my sister didn't feel comfortable with the teacher, and we had to leave right away. So we only learned the base of a basket, not much, but we never kind of put it up into a basket. So we went home with whatever fiber we had, and my sister went into the bathroom and brought the waste paper basket out, turned it upside down, and said, there, we'll just see what we can do. You always keep your first basket. The rest can be giveaway and so on, but you always keep your first basket. And this is the first basket that I wove, and I've kept it It's one of the few baskets that I have. Very proud of it, and when other people saw it, they said, "Whoa, that's pretty good for your first basket." And I said, it reminds me of a chest, a woman's chest in a way, and like torso. And yeah, that was it. And that's what we made. Didn't quite look like the waste paper basket, but it passed as something to use. And I was so proud of myself, and so was my sister. So that's how it all began with me. I said, I always feel like I'm the person who comes in through the exit, you know, and I had to learn. That's why I said to the young people the other day, I learned through my hands, and my hands had that ancestral cellular memory somehow. I really loved it, and I had sat with basket weavers all around the world, but never thought I would pick it up myself. And so it kind of chose me as well. And I just learned and made mistakes and had to redo it sometimes over and over. But it was all a teaching, and I just got better and better. And then I started selling baskets, and then I realized how much time it took. And I would do like 10 hours worth of basket collecting and then weaving, and be selling it for $30 or $40 if I was lucky. And sometimes I would get old growth trees that they had cut down, and I felt so sorry for the old growth, and I could hardly wrap my legs around it. But some of the trees were 800-year-olds, 1,000-year-olds, and you'd be weaving with that, selling it for next to nothing, and feeling, you know, that it took 800 years for that tree to grow. And you know, at least with the baskets, you're holding, you're remembering, you're holding that time span. And for me, the cedars were ancient, were wise. They lived through how many of our generation? It's unbelievable. They're our teachers. You know, what do they know? What do they see and remember? And so even holding that tissue in my hand was, you know, a remembering as well, you know, and feeling it through them and honoring them in the best way I could. So that's how it all began. And then eventually, it took off more and more. I was making hats, and I became better known. And we didn't have any kind of official traditional basket weavers like there's so many on the coast of British Columbia. And for me, being inland was just trying to learn on my own, do the best I could. And what was good for me was that I could bring something different, bring novelty to the art. And so when I would go visit some of the reserves on the coast with my hats and my baskets, they would take all my hats and basket because they said they're different. And so that's how I started to recognize how we're all unique in our own way. Even with the traditionalists, they have some different styles, and they integrate different fibers as well. So you're starting to see more diversity. But it wasn't until Truth and Reconciliation that we became more and more recognized, more validated, and that we started to become part of the schooling system and part of the teachings at the school. This is called splitting, and the bottom of the tree is always the thickest, and it thins out as it goes to the top of the tree. The north side, the side that's not facing the sun, is usually thicker than the side that's facing the sun. And so after we've cut our strip, we have this one's sort of thin in a way. I'm not at the bottom part of the tree, but it's enough for our ability to show that you're going to come right here, right down the middle of the fibers, because that's the thing with the cedar, is they're long, tall fibers. and we're going to cut. And it's important that you have it cut straight to give you an idea. And now we're splitting. We're going to separate the two. And these will be more of our weavers. And it's, you feel it with your hands when it's thinning out too much on one side. It's important to stay in the middle as much as possible. The older the tree, the thicker the fiber will be. So sometimes you can split them into two usually, but you can split it into 3 sometimes, and even 4, depending on the thickness and the age and the position on the tree. So this is splitting the fiber. Sometimes you want your ribs, the part of the baskets that is going to be holding up the basket, the ribs on the side. Sometimes you want them thicker, but the weaver, sometimes you want it thinner, depending on, again, the age of the tree and the thickness. And the weavers can be thinner, but the ribs have to be strong. Sometimes when you get to the top, it thins out too much. It's not worth doing. Sometimes people dig too deep. It's hard when you're teaching students or beginners. They kind of dig in deep and then it'll thin out too much. But where it's too thin, sometimes you have to just cut that off. So I'm going to just cut it here and save this piece for maybe a rib or something. Put that aside for after. But there's your 2 strands. And that's what you're going to hang and dry. And we'll be ready for weaving later on. And you always roll them a little loose, never tight, so they have a bit of air in between. Often everybody would say, oh, you're an activist, or call me an activist, or you know, and I said, oh, no, if I can sit down and be lazy, I'll do it. I'm a pacifist, and I'm proud of who I am. And when I've gotten arrested or whatever, it's kind of almost like a religious theme, where I'm giving myself, I'm giving of myself. I'm making that sacrifice, sacred offering of what I am, who I am, into your arms and delivering myself, and that I'm proud for what I'm standing for. And for me, all of life is important. And it's the trees, but it's everything around the trees, because we need a healthy ecosystem to even grow a tree, to grow a child. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and now an elder. And it's my job. And this is the job that I have to sustain life. And as an elder now, it's important that I think of those next generations to come. And every generation should make it better. And so I tell the young ones of today, don't get mad. Be proud. Be proud of who you are. Stand firm. Hold your beliefs up, because faith is a great thing. It'll give you that extra piece of courage you need to stand up, to hold strong, to make that choice and that decision to go without any expectations or without knowing the outcome. And that's how I started, not knowing, that they would take me away, because I refused to sign the undertaking of my release. The judge told me, well, you can sign here and then you get to go home till your court date, but you have to abide by our code that you're not allowed to return to your watershed and to stand against the logging in your watershed. And I said, I'll always stand against the logging in my watershed, so you might as well take me now. And so for me, making that decision and then learning afterwards as I went through court, after spending months in jail and fasting and everything, business rules over life, that we had no strength to stand up as people in our community, as families, for ourselves and for our community, and that the business of the government, the resource extraction, boom and bust, is more important than life itself. And that's what going to court taught me. And that's what decolonization is, in a way, is to change this pyramid-style government where we elect the few to lead the many. And it's time we go to the circle where the many participate. To truly become a good democracy, we need the participation of everybody together, and to think of the animals, the trees, the water, and everything around us that sustains us. So I tell the young today, you know, I'm here to give you hope. I'm here to give you honor. I'm here to help validate your integrity. Hold your head high. Be proud of who you are, and you can be anything you want. You don't have to carry everybody else's titles. Carry yourself with honor and pride over who you are, and walk that line where you know the difference between good and not good, and not so good, and evil and perversion, and what is going to count that can be passed on as a living legacy, not a dead one. And so that, to me, is my teaching, is my piece that I can hand over, and to give hope for the next generation. And our greatest responsibility is to be an example for others. And that, in the end, is what I've become, an example for others, and a life that's worth living, because all I have at the end of the day is my story. And I lived for the things that counted for me in life. And it wasn't money, it wasn't glory, it wasn't power, but it was a lot of love. And love is everything. I'm grateful to live in a place that still has enough remnants of nature, in a place that, what I call in the Kootenays, the watersheds of this land that we call Canada, in a place that nourishes with water. It's a rainforest, the only rare inland temperate rainforest on earth, that I say all we do here is make clouds. We get so much rain and moss and fungi, and it's a very special place to live. And we get to swim in these lakes that are glacial cold, and yet the glaciers are melting, so we do have to worry. And now we're, starting to see the climate shifting and changing. So it's very important that we recognize that, and that we start changing in order to adapt. Because adapting is probably the most important thing we can do now, is to adapt to nature, not adapt nature to ourselves. For me, it's to inspire, and inspire means in spirit, to pass on that spirit of wanting to do it, wanting to get outside, turning off your cell phone and being in nature. And like I say, silence yourself and listen to the silence. When do we hear silence? And just stop thinking, stop, worrying about things, and just sit in nature and be open and open all your senses to nature. So now we're also beginning the process of lining up our fibers that I've already cut and prepared for this very moment in time. In the beginning of the process, we'll make sure that they're strong, your fiber, that they're going to be the stronger ones, because they're going to be the ribs of your basket. So we make sure they're very strong, they're not weak, because the ribs are going to be the support structure of the basket, and these longer ones will be the weaver that we weave around, and they don't need to be as strong as the ribs. So you start off with looking at your colors and the way you want to line up the light or the dark, and what kind of patterns you want to make in order to weave, and how many light and dark you have. And some are a double weave and they're light, and some are already separated because they were so thick. And just make sure you've got your colors in alignment and the strength that they have, and then for a middle, if they're thick, if they're thin, all that is important. So we're going to begin with, I'd like to create a bit of a pattern here, and I'm going to put my thickest ones towards the center, because they're, especially this one here, I'm going to think of where my middle is going to be and how I want it to be in alignment with one another, so that my basket is even. So I start with the middle, and then I'm going to come underneath here and over and lock these in, and then I'm going to add another piece here, and another piece on the side here. Beneath. And this is the very beginning of the basket. And I'm going to add a dark one here, just to make a contrast in my basket. Another. And once you've aligned these fibers, the next one you're aligning are the ones that are going to be your weavers. As you can see, some are a bit longer, but we'll cut that later on. And then I'm going to put a couple of light ones here. And you got to always make sure your corners have some of the strongest ribs, because the corners are always very important that they be strong. And you pull this up and up in order to align them properly with the ones that are beneath. And then I've got a very small one here, but I don't know if I'm going to put these on the side or not, because they're smaller and they're kind of thick. You see, these are the ribs on the side here. These are the ribs, and this is the base that we're weaving right now. And so we're just going to put this base down, which will be the bottom of our basket, to weave around and around. And my basket's going to be a little more rectangular, just because I'm adding these two again for contrast. Just what I feel like doing right now. And it'll kind of shorten this side here, but we'll cut the lengths to be equal in the end. So I've got the 4 corners, and I'm going to pin them and hold them down so that they hold, so that I can find a string to go around, a thinner piece to go around. And this is the piece I will be looking for, this string-like piece that will tie them all together. And those are crucial pieces in beginning your basket, and they're usually very small, and they'll be tight, and that's often what we're looking for. And these you can cut by hand prior to beginning. And then you want to make sure that this string goes like 1.5 times around your basket to make sure you have enough of the string. And we're going to begin in the middle by starting the weave here at the top, and then pretty well in the middle, and hooking it on there, and then going around. And the reason, again, you're doing this, these are like your fingers sticking out, your ribs, and you're going to take that, come down like that, and then fold over, next fold over, next fold over. And as you can see, it's going to tie it so that it holds properly, and it'll be nice and tight. And after that, it will set the base of your basket and add to the strength of holding it together. And so when you cut these, you pull on them and stretch them to see that they're strong enough to hold. And it'll be at the base of your basket to hold your fibers, your ribs together. And so we're going to start, and we twist. And this is sometimes one of the hardest parts for someone to learn or to do. And this is when we put our clothestrings aside, and we arrive at a corner. And at the corner, we're going to do a double twist. 1 and 2. Because when you're starting and I'll show you. I'm going to turn this, and when you're starting your basket, you need a little more space on the corners when you're folding it up to go up, because there's always a little bit more space on the corners. These are in alignment, and these are when the corners have come up, and you need that little bit of space in between them to help them to fold upwards to make your corner. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to come across here with our tie and twist, one under, one over, one under, one over, one under, one over, one under, one over, under, over, under, over, under, over. And then you reach your corner again. You're going to turn it. Separate those fibers, and then you're coming again to the corner. Double twist, and then you can see there's a little wedge there. And over, under, over. Always make sure your rope is like nice and parallel on the side. You remove this one too, the clothespin, put it aside. Double twist on the corner. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Over, under, over. Last clothespin. Turn to the front. Under, double twist. Under, over, under, over. Now, we've reached where we meet with the very beginning of our weave, and what you want to do now is go to what's going to be the inside of your basket, and you're going to hook this piece onto here like this, and pull it through, and then twist this over and pull it through. And you're going to pull it through and come all the way under here. And if you have a hard time, just a sec, if you have a hard time putting this through here, you can use a spoon to prop open. The spoons are narrow at the base to be able to fit in between. It's not too bad because I have wide ribs, but sometimes you have narrow ribs and you want to have it as narrow as possible. Now you're in between, you're going under to kind of hide this. Now make sure you're nice and tight, everything's good. And then this one here as well will go under. So both of them will be camouflaged underneath, and you won't see this on the outside. This is going to be the inside of the basket, and you want to hide these pieces, and there you go. Now this is tight enough to throw it, make sure it's moist enough If not, take a spray bottle or soak it in water, shake it, and get ready for your next step. Make sure, because in the movement sometimes some get a little shorter, make sure they're all lining up. From the sides. Pretty well. Pretty good. So, seeing that this is going to be the sides of my basket, I'm going to begin on either one of these sides and start my process. And it will be to cut one of the stronger ribs that can afford to be cut, because we're only going to cut one side. And that's because we're going to start from one side. It could be the middle as well, but my middle one isn't as strong as my side one. So I'm going to start with a side one here. Never start on a corner, because that'll make your corner weak and it'll cause more difficulties for you in the longer process. So you cut one, and the reason for cutting it, usually you thin this one out to equal, or you thicken this one to be larger. But again, it's about balancing your basket, and that's why we do these on the side as well. And this is how you're going to begin. And the reason for this is to make all of this instead of even, because lining it up this way makes all your fiber even, and we have to make an odd one. Otherwise, the second row, when you come through, will be the exact identical to the first, and we want one to help skip over and change the next row that you're going to do, and the third row and the fourth row. So we need an odd number instead of an even number on your basket. And so this is when you're going to look to find a weaver that you're going to use to weave around your basket. And because I'm using larger pieces, the one I just split will probably be a nice weaver, and it'll be light colored because I just want to do it light colored. So this is the weaver I'm going to choose, and this is the place I'm going to begin, where I've cut double. And because I'm right-handed, I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to start it. This is really important here. To begin your basket with a bit of a sort of ascendant kind of quality to the fiber, so that it's not completely whole until you reach a certain level, because when you're going to finish, you're going to do the same kind of cut to make sure that it will balance your basket. And so this is the way it's going to start. And so here's where the spoon again comes in handy. Oh, I know I had a spoon here somewhere. Here's the knife. Oh, thanks, Lita. So I'm going to lift that up in order to bring this over and to be able to balance it. This, and this is when you're going to start the putting in your weaver. And what you're going to do at the beginning is put a safety pin, a clothespin on it, and then round it on the corner, and this is when you're going to fold it. And often you can use a mold inside, and it'll help you not mix all your ribs together and drive you crazy, and that helps too. It just makes things easier. And then you're gonna, but I often don't, because I always have so many mix match shapes that I gave up on putting molds in. But if you look at a lot of the traditional teachings, they'll have molds to get just the right shape that they want. And you can cut your fat fiber to fit the right shape. And like I say, make it easier on you. So as you can see, the first row has been laid, and we're going to no pins on the corners, because we already have a bit of extra length on the corners to be able to make your corner. Come in as tight as you can, and just keep going over, under, over, under. And right here is a piece that I didn't notice before, and always make sure that your fiber is well cut and no pieces hanging out like what we're seeing right now. And again, pull nicely to round that corner without pulling too tight. And then, usually around the middle fiber, add your clothespin. And then come around to the next corner, and again, bend over, under, put your clothespin in, check your corner, over, under, come around this corner again, come around here, and here's where we start. We see this is where we began. Make sure you pull up the two ribs that were separated early, and make sure you're bringing those in. And here's where you can again slide your clothespin in the middle, come around, and then come around. And there's once your second weaver, second row of weaving weavers is laid, the basket weaving will become much easier, as you can see. Again, use your clothespins, come around, pull your ribs to make sure you're in nice straight alignment. Pull your ribs, and without a form underneath is when we can make our weavers that much tighter. And always think about, there'll be a bit of shrinking when it dries, and you want to kind of bring it in tight. And as you can see, the weaver is coming through on the second row. And like I say, the second row is what locks the form of your basket in. And once you've completed it, it'll be so much easier to be able to keep rounding off your basket to put that weaver in. And just keep turning, weaving it around. Turning and weaving, turning and weaving. Now you can really see the basket really taking shape more and more. It's easier. Pull, tighten, in, over, under, pull, tighten, over, under, around and around, And we can see the contrast in the basket as well with the colors that we put, the light and dark. And here, this is where sometimes it's like, how come I skipped it? These are big ribs, so it makes it easier. Easier to see, easier for teaching as well, but also just easier to weave. It's the finer stuff that takes more time. So, as you can see, here is where I began, and this is how I'm going to end it. So I'm going to cut this here, give myself a longer place to, and you can see I'm ending it at the same angle, coming in like this. And this is going to show on the outside, so I want to make sure it's as nice a cut as possible. And so there's your on the outside. This is going to come in here, and then this is here is going to come in as well, like this. And then I'm going to tuck it in at the back here, all the way to here. And you can see the downwards angle that I'm going to tuck it in with. And then, as you can see, this will be tucked in further. And this is where I'm going to end my weaver. And then I'm going to take what we call the string, the tie part, the ties that are going to hold it together, making sure I have 1.5, which I do. I have more than 1.5, which is ample fiber, so I won't be using it all. I'll just be using a segment of it. And I'm going to come in by folding it in half and coming down on this side, and it's the same as the bottom that we did, under, over, and the top one is very important that it look good, that it look nice, because that's a really important part that will be visible for your ending, whereas the bottom part doesn't have to be so visible. It'll be sort of tucked underneath in the flat bottom of your basket. So this is my ties that end it and are going to make my folding over easier. And there's different ways of doing this. There's so many different ways for different themes that you want as a finishing touch. But this for me is one of the neatest and tightest, and is very nice finishing on a basket. There, tucked under, over, game twist. Now we're coming to the end, and it's the same as what we had at the beginning. And I'm going to cut this a little shorter so it won't be so difficult to put through, and this one as well. So these are the two pieces that are going to be tucked into the inside like this, and you hook it on to the piece that you already started with, and you're going to turn it this way, and you're going to twist this one as well under and over, and then you do it on the second rung here so that you can tuck it into the next piece. Take my spoon out, go in there, and tuck it under to go underneath like that, underneath and underneath like that. So they're tucked right under, and they're going to pull here and then pull this piece as well. And flatten it with your fingers after, and flatten it, and then we're going to cut where it won't show. And there you go. See? I've got a bit of a bump here that could have been pulled a little tighter. But it's all looking good. And now we're completely done with the height of the basket and the process of weaving, and now we're doing the finishing touch. And so I've evened out most of the fiber on here, and remember, your basket will be the height of the lowest one. So what I've done here, as you can see, I've cut them. It can be to the side or it can be in a point, and that's in order to tuck them in. And we're not finished yet, but we're just going to do the cuts on them, and to either point in whatever direction or however you want, but not cut them at the top. Just cut them on the sides. You want the length of the basket here. They're all trimmed at the top in order for us to start the process of tucking them in. Now we're going to look for a nice thick piece in here. Nice and thick. Very thick. And this is going to go inside our basket, so we have to check how long it's going to be, and always add a bit of extra length. It's always handy to have, but it'll be shorter because it'll be lesser than that, because we're going to put it on the inside. Again, cedar to cedar, and we're grateful for all the cedar we're using. And so I'm going to cut this back a bit, just because it's going to fold up onto the next part, and I don't want it to be bubbling up in a way. I want them to fit well together. And so I'm going to just cut in a bit, cut in, and remove some of this extra width to thin it out a little. And so, again, let's always have the finishing part to the side, which is always handy dandy. And we're going to tuck this basket in, back to getting my clothespins in. We're going to start with one, and as you can see, there's inside is hard to show, but inside is a short one and a long one. Because of the weave, like this part here, we're going to tuck it only under that thick side, and this part here will get tucked into the second rung. I'll try to remember that. So this is, if you look here, you'll see this one here being tucked into the second rung. Get the spoon out, go in, under, and tuck in until it comes out the other side. I'll push it up a bit more with the spoon to make sure it's going in. I see it coming out the other side. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pull it down. As you can see, it's pulled right down where it's completely pulling that fiber in and under. This is going to go under, and the one on the other side of it is going to go under as well. So one over and one under. And this is one of the reasons that we're using this piece here. It's going to add a thickness to the top of our basket and a strength, because many people will pick up the basket from the side. And you can see we can cut this later, but I just feel like cutting it now. And then later we're going to come in and pull this even tighter at the end. So you can see the process of what we're doing now. This one here, like the one before, is we're skipping, pushing up like that, pull, tighten it. Make sure you're tightening it from the base as well, and push it in. Sometimes you got to wiggle the spoon a bit to get it in. Get in there and pull down. And you can see the process that we began. Now the next one's going to come over, pull tight, that you're tightening it from the bottom up, and then tuck it in underneath there. So we're only having to go through one under, one over, and it's kind of making our process a little easier. Now tuck it in, get in there, pull that down as much as you can, and then go to the next one. This one's going to come under, and over, and here we're going to tuck it in. It's really hard to see because it's very much on the inside. Pull tight, tuck it in. it's working okay, and that's because I've had to. This is where we began, and where we've ended our string like fiber, and you can already see the beginning of the ending of our basket. You can already see how, again, the strength from the top and the tightness as we go down the basket. And we continue this process of tucking under, and you can see this one has split, so we're going to do it in two segments in a way to tuck it under. Tuck both pieces under as much as we can. Sometimes you have to cut them, or maybe I'm going to put this one underneath. We're coming to the end, and I'm trimming this end part. I trim this part here where it's I'm going to cut this off because we want equal thickness, but not too much thickness, because it'll kind of make a bump in a way, and we don't want bumps, too many bumps. And then here too, I'm going to trim it down from underneath so it won't show so much. And this it will be hidden, so it won't need to look perfect. So I've left out the ones we're going to tuck over, and I've kept in the ones we're going to tuck under. This one has come loose over here in the corner. I can pull this in, get in there, pull it down. Now remember, pull tight there. Come up, grab your spoon, come up over, under, go under, get in there, pull it down as tight as you can. And then this one here, I didn't pull tight, so I can do it now. Pull tight from the bottom up, tuck it under, just tuck it under this rung we put in, under, and then tuck it over. Then tuck it over. And as you can see, our last piece here is going to cover where we've cut in there in order to tuck this in. Once you've cut them, you won't be able to do much after that, because it's the ending of your basket. Tight inside, cut. And so I don't know if you can see from far away, but what you can see mainly is that the basket now is finished. There's just going to be some threads that need cutting. Some people sometimes take a lighter and light those threads up, and you can tell that, oh, here's one cut, didn't quite do it, but even from inside it looks good, from outside and from inside. And you can see the pattern that I started with, and the pattern of the corners, and then the sides, and how this basket is its own work of art. And I feel good for the hours that were put in, and for all this work, and for all that for being in the old growth and sitting here amongst the old growth trees doing something that is very special, like weaving a basket and reminding them how precious they are to us and how much we value them in our lives. And having a basket to take home, the smell of it always reminds me of the cedar, of the trees that the tree we harvested, the young people that were on it, the people who helped me teach the weaving of the basket to the young people of the classroom, of the Nikas classroom, and also being here now again among the cedars to sit here. I feel very blessed, very grateful for all that I have and for the skills of the cedars who have come into my dreams and helped me and taught me a lot about their wisdom. And I have something to pass on to the next generation, as they have been standing over us, watching us over many, many generations. Limlit, I feel very blessed today. When you're finished your basket and you're swelling and your chest is swelling with pride, you can fill it with towels or whatever, and to put a weight on top of it, and that will help, and shape it so, because it's still wet and damp, and to help keep its shape. As I said when I began, this will be rectangular. And then you can also, if you want to make sure your top is flat and your bottom is flat, you can put a weight on it, just a mild weight, to push this down, and it'll help even out your top part, and it will help you keep all your ribs that you've tucked in place. So that's the final duty. And sometimes you can just leave it the way it is and stare at it for the next few weeks and months and years to come. Somehow you make your life, you carve your life, and you become somebody. And what's important is to be someone to your community, to wherever you live, wherever you go, to be helpful, to be of service, to be kind. And those are the things I carried with me all my life. And now, like I say, I still relate very highly to the common person. I don't feel I have to attain any great peaks. I cherish my community, the nation and the place where I live, and cherish the world that is so much part of my life, and nature, Mother Nature, planet Earth. And that's it.